Hey team, I hope everybody's doing well. A short hobby update today, hopefully. I might have a bit of a ramble afterwards. But this was something I just felt like getting some progress on. This is Perry Miniatures Metal ACW, obviously, Union Sharpshooters. So the Berdan's Sharpshooters and Berdan Sharpshooters command kits. One blister of each, and then to make up the numbers, I've got this gentleman here who is the Warlord Games extra figure you get with the ACW campaign book for Black Powder. So this will be 2 units of 6 plus a big man at the back for sharp practice. Having looked at the army lists or the guide lists in the Sharp Practice book, thought that they could do with some differentiation, a little bit of, I guess, more varied forces. So I thought adding sharpshooters might be one of the ways to do that. And on the Confederate side, I'll just push these to the side for a moment. I don't have a big man for these, but this is 2 blisters of the Dismounted Confederate Cavalry in civilian clothes, and these were again just an absolute joy to paint. It's difficult to try and fault Perry's at the best of times, but these were really fun sculpts, a lot of personality, and in a good way. Let's see if I can get that in focus. A lot of detail, a lot of character on them. I particularly like, where is he? This gentleman here. I thought he was quite cool. So I'll probably just use a mounted big man for that force if they dismount. Still plenty to push on with as far as ACW goes, which sort of segues nicely into the slight hobby rant I might want to do. So if you're not interested in the miniatures, or you're just interested in the miniatures, excuse me, please feel free to drop out now. But last year I managed to get 1,300 minis painted. This was up from 1,000 for both the previous 2 years. And I know what I'm like. If I kept going, I'd want to get 1,500 done this year, and then it'd have to be 1,650 next year, etc., etc. Which sounds all well and good, but what I'm doing in order to meet this arbitrary deadline and beat, you know, the 1,000 mini mark, is I'm focusing on painting fantasy miniatures, which I think, due to the slightly larger proportions, the sort of the heroic 28mm scale, makes them bigger overall, and therefore I find easier to paint. I mean, if you're looking at something like this with the detailed buttons and you know, the facial expression, it's a bit more difficult to pick out that detail on a true scale 28mm miniature than it is at something that's effectively 32. So if I'm tracking miniatures like that, I'm going to be pulling focus away from historicals to work on fantasy, which isn't something I necessarily want to do. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy painting the fantasy miniatures, and they're great fun to have a game with. But the reason I'm focusing on trying to get so much painted now is so they've got armies lined up in the future for when the eyesight goes and the hands don't work to hold a paintbrush. So I really should be focusing on trying to get a few core armies done in various periods, which is really the intention of, I guess it's been the hobby focus for a while now. So I've got quite a few various historical projects on, as you can possibly notice in the background. I've got some Perry Deutsche Afrika Corps, which have been assembled and are ready to base and prime. They'll be used for chain of command. A friend of mine has just finished his studies, was doing a very time-intensive postgraduate course, and I just basically, to try and get him into historical, said, look, is there any particular period you're interested in? And as it was Second World War El Alamein, so he's working on an Allied force at the moment. I'll get these guys done up, and we'll get some chain of command games in, hopefully sometime in the near future. If I pan slightly the other way, you can probably see in the background there's a stack of Vikings I still need to be working on. Pan slightly the other way, and we have these guys are from Flags of War. This is actually a miniatures line from Flags of War for the 1745 Jacobite Rebellion. So I'd like to get them done. This is the start of a unit of Royal Courtiers, I think it's pronounced. I copped out here and basically did the one Jacobite unit that didn't involve tartan, so once I've got a bit more courage up, I'll see how I go with the tartan. Beyond that, in the background, we've got Landsknecht for Italian Wars, and then on the purple tray, you can probably just see the tray top of screen. Napoleonic Russians. Just doing a quick scout about. I can see War of the Roses miniatures, Napoleonic French, Scots Covenanters, 30 Years War Spanish. There's a whole bunch of stuff left and right that I really want to make a start on. So the point I'm very slowly coming around to making is that rather than focusing on arbitrary goals and big projects, I'm just going to do things small and piecemeal like this as the mood takes me. Because I mean, I know a lot of it will be down to the sculpts, but I really did enjoy painting these. I mean, these were just fun to paint. At no point did I feel like it was a grind or I had to push myself. To be honest, I'm sort of toying with getting more Perry medals just because they were so good to paint. Yeah, so I think if I reduce the scope of what I'm trying to paint, so I'm not painting 150 fantasy miniatures at a go, and maybe allow myself to paint one unit at a time of historical, so maybe 20-30 miniatures, or even, you know, a couple of bases of 4 to 6 miniatures at a time, I probably won't have the output that I will if I'm just focusing on big blocks, but I'll probably enjoy it more. I think the results will be better, and I should get a more varied output happening rather than just focusing on churning out a bunch of fantasy armies, which, to be honest, I've got enough of as it stands. So that's broadly the game plan. Thanks for listening to the ramble. I hope everybody's doing well. Thanks so much for watching. Please have a great day.